Welcome to In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Sharla Brown, and on today's show, we are talking with the Thunder Bay Counselling Center. My first guest today is Diana Prairie. Diana is a clinical counselor at the Thunder Bay Counselling Center. Right. You have a lot of programs that you work with, including the violence against women, male survivors of sexual abuse and sexual assault, and also Voices, which is children and youth exposed to woman abuse. So, Diana, can you tell me a little bit about the type of counseling services that you provide to survivors of violence and abuse?
Sure. So we offer both individual and group counseling for youth and adults and children who have been exposed to violence. And that violence can be both in intimate partner relationships as well as in childhood. So for a man, for example, who may have been sexually abused as a child, we have groups and individual counseling for them. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about some of your women's programming. So you were mentioning survivors of violence and abuse, but do you work with women who are still living in violent and abusive relationships?
We do, absolutely. And we really want people to know that help is out there. And so there's always that concern that if they're still with their partners, you know, that we may make a judgment about that. And we really want people to know that there's resources and supports out there for them. So whether or not it's a historic situation or you've left your partner or you're currently in that situation, we absolutely want you to know that you can come for help.
Right. And what's the best way to access those resources at the counseling center?
Yeah, that's good to know. Certainly we have intakes happening every single day, so they can call, they can walk in. And we actually have the walk-in clinic that happens every second week at our center, and then we partner also with Children's Centers. So the first and third Wednesday it's at our place, and then the alternate Wednesdays it's at Children's Center.
Wonderful. And where's your office located that if people haven't been there before?
Yeah, 544 Winnipeg Avenue.
Wonderful. So what is a safety plan, and what are important factors to consider when developing one?
Right. So a safety plan for women who are leaving or have left a relationship is really all of the things that you might want to do to make sure that you're safe, whether you're in your own home or whether you're in the community. And so we want the women and their children to know that there's steps that they can take, whether it is having a contact that they call when they're leaving their home and coming back home, making sure that their home is locked. If they're driving, you know, doing a circle check around their car to make sure nobody's, you know, messed with their car. And certainly one of the things that we want people to know is that, you know, that can be worked on with a counselor, that they don't have to come up with all those ideas on their own.
Absolutely, that those supports are there, because sometimes you might not know or know what questions to even ask or what steps to take, right?
Right, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about the men's programming. So men's sexual abuse is not often talked about. How prevalent is it in our community?
Well, in the past, we actually thought it was 1 in 6, and now the stats actually are showing 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of abuse in their life, sexual abuse. So the group that we have is for men who've had sexual abuse or sexual assault in their life. It's a big commitment. It's a 13-week program, but it's a therapeutic group for men who have identified themselves as someone who've have had that experience. And really, I think it's that piece of isolation that gets dispelled once they actually meet in a group with other men who've had that experience as well.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And what's the type of counseling that you provide to men?
Yeah, so we do individual as well. So if they would like to come in and talk individually, sometimes people do that prior to doing the group, or sometimes they'll do the group and then realize that they need some additional support. So it's, you know, the one-to-one counseling, 1 hour, they might come in over a course of weeks, and then we try to connect them with other resources that are available in the community.
Absolutely. And you also offer children's programming through the Thunder Bay Counselling Center. So let's talk a little bit about what type of service that you specifically offer for children and for youth.
Right. So again, we do have the individual counseling, but we have specifically a program for moms and children who've been exposed to violence, and that's called the Voices program. And that program is 10 weeks long, and it's kind of you know, obviously it's not the great topic to talk about, but it's a good group because, again, it educates children around that idea of how to protect yourself and how to stay safe. Also, it really comes at it from the perspective of just how are they feeling, right? We try to help the kids get in touch with their feelings. So that 10-week program, coming with their moms, people they feel safe with, and they, you know, as much as it's a tough tough topic, they have a lot of fun as well.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's kind of geared to the age groups
Yeah,
and things
for
like
sure.
that. And how often do you run this group?
So that we try to run it at least a couple times a year, and it happens within a couple of agencies, ours being, one of them as well. So definitely at least twice a year we will run that group.
Wonderful. And what's your main message for anyone who's experienced physical violence or sexual abuse that might be watching today and looking to seek out some help?
Well, first and foremost, it's never anybody's fault when they're being abused, and we really want people to know there's help out there. I think a lot of times the challenge is, who do I call? Where would I be able to access help? And I think for people to know that they can come and talk to somebody one-on-one who is not in judgment of whether or not they've left or whether or not they're thinking of staying in that moment. That's not what's important. It's about the fact that they can access resources.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's just talk about that one more time, that if somebody's interested in your service, how would they get in touch and sign up for any of these services or programs?
So our main number is 684-1880, and they can call our intake line. Like I say, every day we have intake available. There's the walk-in that happens every second Wednesday at our place, and alternate Wednesdays at Children's Centre. And at any point, I mean, if people just drop in, we would certainly have someone that would be available to talk to them so that they can get linked up with the resources that we have available.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, Diana, for sharing, the area that you're involved with and the programs and services that you do there at the Thunder Bay Counselling Centre. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with the Thunder Bay Counselling Centre and talk more about the programs and services that they offer.